Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to unravel the journey of a simple shirt.
It's amazing how such an ordinary item can tell us so much about the world, about global trade and even how our society is structured.
Absolutely. And to really understand that, we need to start at the very beginning. Not in some fancy design studio or bustling factory, but under the open sky.
Out in the fields.
Exactly. We're headed to a cotton farm in Kurnool, Andhra Pradesh, where we'll meet Swapna, a small farmer whose story is going to kick off our journey.
Okay, so we're talking about the very first step, growing the raw material.
Right. And Swapna's story is going to show us how deeply individual lives are intertwined with the global market, even from the very beginning.
I'm intrigued. What's her story like?
Well, she works incredibly hard, but she often faces challenges that limit how much she can actually earn.
Challenges like what?
Well, for one, think about the costs involved, even before a single cotton boll is harvested. Seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, it all adds up.
Right. Those are essential inputs for any farmer.
Exactly. And those costs often mean that farmers like Swapna need to take out loans at the start of the season.
Okay, so loans are pretty common in agriculture. Makes sense.
Yeah, but here's the thing. These loans aren't always from banks with reasonable interest rates.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Often, small farmers have to rely on local traders who offer loans, but with a catch.
A catch.
The farmer has to agree to sell their entire harvest to that trader at a price the trader sets.
Ah, so it's like a predetermined agreement that kind of limits the farmer's options later on.
Exactly. And that brings us to an important idea in economics: power dynamics.
Power dynamics.
It basically means whoever has more resources or control in a situation has more power to influence the outcome in their favor.
So in this case, the trader holds more power than Swapna because she relies on that loan.
Exactly. She's kind of stuck, even if she could get a better price by selling her cotton in the open market at Kurnool.
And I bet the trader knows that.
Absolutely. He offers her 1,500 rupees per quintal of cotton, and when she hesitates, he tells her there's a surplus of cotton, so that's the best she'll get.
Trying to leverage his knowledge of the market, huh?
It's a classic case of information asymmetry. The trader has more information about market trends than Swapna does, and he uses that to his advantage.
It's a bit unfair, isn't it?
It is. So she ends up selling her 4 quintals of cotton to him at that price.
So how much does she earn in total?
Well, 4 quintals at 1,500 rupees, each comes out to 6,000 rupees. But hold on, we're not done yet.
Right. She still has to repay that loan.
Exactly. And after she pays back the loan with interest, she's only left with 3,000 rupees.
For months of hard work. That's barely more than a wage laborer might make.
It really highlights the vulnerability of small farmers in a system where they often bear the brunt of risk and price fluctuations.
Vulnerability.
Yeah. Think of it as the likelihood of individuals or groups facing hardship or exploitation due to things beyond their control.
So things like market forces, limited access to resources, those unequal power dynamics we talked about.
Exactly. Swapna's situation is a perfect example of how all of these factors can trap people in a cycle of poverty.
It makes you wonder, are there better ways to support small farmers?
That's the big question, and we'll definitely explore some alternatives as we continue our deep dive. But for now, let's shift gears a bit and travel south to Tamil Nadu.
South. Where are we headed?
We're going to visit the bustling bi-weekly cloth market in Erode.
Sounds lively.
Oh, it is. It's this incredible microcosm of the textile industry. You'll find weavers, merchants, exporters, garment manufacturers, all interacting in this vibrant display of commerce.
I can just imagine the sights and sounds, rows of colorful fabrics, the clacking of looms, the energy of people making deals.
It's quite a spectacle.
Ah,
But within this dynamic market, we also find another system that, while seemingly efficient on the surface, can sometimes perpetuate inequalities.
what kind of system?
It's called the putting out system.
Putting out system? What's that?
So basically, merchants give yarn to weavers and agree to buy back the finished cloth from them. At first glance, it seems like a pretty good deal for everyone.
I can see that. The weaver doesn't have to worry about buying yarn or finding buyers, and the merchant has a reliable source of cloth.
Right. But when we look closer, we start to see how this system, just like we saw with Swapna and the trader, can create dependencies that don't always benefit the weaver.
Okay, I'm following. How so?
Well, think about it from the weaver's perspective. First off, they have to invest a significant chunk of money in their loom,
How much are we talking?
around 20,000 rupees.
Yeah.
And sometimes they even have to take out loans for that.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
It is. And then they work long hours, often 12 hours a day or even more, just to produce the cloth.
Sounds exhausting.
It is. And despite all that hard work and investment, their monthly earnings under this putting out system, it averages around 3,500 rupees.
3,500. That doesn't seem like much considering all the effort they put in.
It's not.
Ah.
And it makes you wonder if they might actually be better off working independently.
Independently, like
Oh.
selling their cloth directly or something.
Yeah. Or maybe joining forces with other weavers. There could be more control, more potential for earning.
It's like that lack of control and those often low wages make this putting out system a bit of a gray area, right? In terms of fairness.
Exactly. So we've now seen how power dynamics and vulnerability play a role in both Swapna's story and this putting out system.
Makes you think, are there ways to address these issues? To make things fairer for everyone involved?
That's the million-dollar question. And we're going to explore some potential solutions in the next part of our deep dive.
Can't wait to hear about them.
Yeah.
So last time we were talking about the putting out system and, well, how it's not always the most beneficial for the weavers themselves.
It really makes you think about how even systems meant to be efficient can end up creating inequalities, right? Especially if they don't put people first.
It's like a recurring theme, isn't it? From Swapna and the cotton trader to these weavers, there's this pattern of individuals being kind of stuck in systems that don't work in their favor.
You hit the nail on the head. But the good news is people are exploring and trying out different ways to address these imbalances.
Oh, that's good to hear. Like what?
Well, one approach that's gained a lot of traction, especially in areas like textiles and agriculture, is the idea of cooperatives, or, co-ops, as some people call them.
Co-ops. I've heard that term before.
They're basically businesses owned and run by the very people who use their services or produce the goods. So in our case, it could be farmers or weavers coming together to form their own co-op.
Okay, so like a team effort, pooling resources and all that.
Exactly. Imagine a group of those weavers in Erode getting together and forming a weavers cooperative. Instead of each of them having to buy yarn from a merchant, they could buy it all together, in bulk.
Makes sense. Bulk discounts and all that.
And that's not all. They wouldn't be stuck selling their cloth back to the merchant at whatever price he sets either.
So they'd have more control over pricing.
Right. They could market and sell their products together, reaching more customers, and maybe even getting better prices.
Sounds promising. Is there a term for that, like when they team up to negotiate better prices?
It's called collective bargaining. Basically, when they join forces, they have more power to negotiate with dyers, more power to get fair prices for their work, and more control over how much they produce.
So it's not just about the money, right? It's about giving them a real voice, a say in how things are run.
Absolutely. Instead of being at the mercy of the market or those merchants, they get to be decision makers, shaping their own futures.
Do you have any examples of co-ops that are actually doing well?
There's some great examples, actually. The Weavers Cooperatives in Tamil Nadu have seen some real success. The government there has been pretty supportive, too.
In what way?
Well, they have this free school uniform program that buys uniforms directly from those co-ops, which guarantees a stable market and fair prices.
Oh, that's smart.
Right. And there's also Co-optex. Have you heard of it?
Rings a bell.
It's a chain of government-run stores that sell only handloom products made by cooperatives. So it helps them financially and promotes those traditional crafts, too.
So government involvement can actually be a good thing when it comes to supporting these co-ops, huh?
It can be. It shows that it's not always about leaving everything to market forces. Sometimes you need a little push to create a system where people can work together and be treated fairly.
Makes you wonder, though, do co-ops always work out this well? Do they face any challenges?
That's a great point. While they offer a lot of potential, they do come with their own set of hurdles.
Like what?
Well, to work effectively, they need solid organization, good leadership, and everyone needs to be on the same page, sharing the same goals.
I can imagine that could be tricky sometimes.
It can be. And then there's the issue of money. Getting enough capital to get started, especially for new co-ops, can be a real struggle.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm guessing they still have to compete with those big corporations, even with government support.
You got it. Which means they need constant support and innovation to really make it in the long run.
So it's not like co-ops are a guaranteed solution, but...
But they do show us how working together and collaborating can lead to a more balanced system, especially for those who often get the short end of the stick in the traditional market setup.
It's an inspiring idea, for sure. But hey, let's not forget about our shirt. We followed it from the farm to the weaver, and now it's time to see where it goes next.
Onwards and upwards.
So,
Next stop, a garment exporting factory near Delhi. That's where the cloth woven in Erode gets transformed into the shirts we see in stores.
So we're entering a whole new phase now, the actual manufacturing process. I'm curious to see how this part of the global supply chain works.
And we're back. We followed our shirt from those cotton fields in India through the bustling markets and the garment factories. It's been quite a journey.
It has. And now we get to see it reach its final destination.
Yep, it's crossed the ocean and is now ready to meet its consumer in a, well, let's be honest, probably a very brightly lit U.S. clothes shop.
It's almost mind-boggling, isn't it? A simple shirt connecting so many lives, so many different economies across continents.
It really highlights how interconnected our world has become.
Hmm.
But before we get to that final sale, it's important to remember everything we've learned so far. The farmers like Swapna, the skill of the weavers, those garment workers.
Right, that their hard work is what made this moment possible.
Absolutely. But as we enter this final stage, we also start to see some stark contrasts in how the money flows within this global supply chain.
Oh, how so?
Well, imagine our shirt hanging in that U.S. store with a price tag of, say, $26.
Okay, $26, that's what, around 1,800 rupees?
Something like that, yeah. But remember, the store owner, the business person, they didn't pay that much for it. They bought it from the exporter at a much lower price.
I imagine so. So what did they pay, like 500 rupees?
Let's say, for argument's sake, they paid 300 rupees for that shirt.
300? Wow, okay. But even then, they have other costs, right? Like shipping, storing the clothes, rent for the shop itself.
All of that. And then there's marketing, display costs, all those little things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say those extra costs add up to about 600 rupees per shirt.
So that's 300 for the shirt itself, plus 600 in extra costs. That's 900 rupees total for the business person.
Exactly. Now, compare that to the 1,800 rupee selling price.
Hang on, so they're making a profit of 900 rupees per shirt.
That's right. A pretty significant markup when you consider how little the people who actually made the shirt earned.
That's a huge difference. It's like every step along the way, the price goes up, but the people who did the actual work at the beginning, they don't see much of that increase.
It's called value addition. Each step in the process makes the product more valuable, but the way that added value is shared isn't always fair.
Right. Like we've been saying all along, the further we get from the raw materials, the hands that actually made the thing, the bigger the profits seem to become.
It raises important questions about how this whole system works, doesn't it? About whether it's really designed to benefit everyone fairly, especially those who do the most labor-intensive work.
It's something to think about for sure.
So here we are at the end of our journey. We started with a simple shirt and ended up exploring global trade, power dynamics, ethical consumption. It's amazing what you can learn from something so ordinary.
It really is. It shows that our choices as consumers, even something as simple as buying a shirt, have consequences. We're all part of this system, whether we realize it or not.
And knowing the story behind the products we buy, knowing where they came from and who made them, that can empower us to make more conscious decisions.
Absolutely. It's about more than just the price tag. It's about understanding the human stories behind the things we buy and the impact our choices have on the world.
Exactly. So next time you're out shopping, take a moment to consider the journey of that product. Who made it? How did it get there? It might just change the way you see the world.